On the 4th of July, 1961, a Soviet submarine silently moved beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Inside, the crew noticed something terrifying. 3 red warning lights, all flashing at the same time. And for Captain Nikolai Zateyev, failure wasn't just dangerous. It could mean prison, or worse. The submarine, known as K-19, was divided into 9 compartments. The front held the captain's cabin and communications. The center stored 3 nuclear missiles. And at the back, 2 powerful reactors kept the entire submarine alive. 1 warning light glowed in the captain's cabin. Their encrypted line to Moscow had suddenly died. Another warning came from the missile compartment. The nuclear warheads could not be armed. But the 3rd light, the one coming from the reactor room, that was the most dangerous of all. Captain Zateyev moved through the narrow corridors. He passed sleeping crew members, torpedo tubes, and cramped bunks. Submarine life was brutal. No space, no comfort, just heat and pressure. Inside his cabin, the communications team found the issue. A single blown fuse. They replaced it. The first warning light went dark, but the 2 remaining warnings would change everything. In the missile chamber, 3 enormous R-13 nuclear missiles towered above the crew, each one capable of destroying an entire city. These missiles allowed the USSR to strike the US coastline without warning. But today, they were completely offline. The crew explained the problem. The missile silos were overheating, so they had shut down automatically. Zateyev had a terrible suspicion. If the missile bay was heating up, the real issue might be in the reactor compartment. And he was right. A sailor rushed in, panic in his voice. "Captain, you need to come to the reactor room, now." As they moved through the submarine, alarms blared. The diesel backup generators were cold. The air tasted metallic. Inside the reactor chamber, the gauge read 300 degrees Celsius. If it reached 600, the reactor would explode, killing everyone on board and possibly triggering a global conflict. The engineers delivered even worse news. There was no backup cooling system. The submarine had been rushed into service before it could be installed. The only man who understood the reactor fully, Korolev, was asleep in the crew quarters. Zateyev ordered an emergency alarm. Submarine life was harsh. Men slept in triple-stacked bunks. Humidity was extreme. And months underwater meant almost no fresh air. Korolev arrived, still half awake. He examined the gauges, checked the pipes, and then said the words everyone feared. "A cooling pipe has ruptured." Without active cooling, the reactor was racing toward meltdown. Zateyev tried to radio Moscow. Silence. Suddenly, an unexpected signal came through. A U.S. Navy ship. "We see your emergency beacon. We can assist if needed." The crew felt hope, but Zateyev couldn't allow it. Letting an enemy nation on board a nuclear submarine would be considered treason. He refused the offer. They were alone. Zateyev gathered his officers. There was only one way to cool the reactor: connect the submarine's drinking water line directly into the reactor's air vent valve. But that valve was inside a chamber filled with deadly radiation. Going inside meant certain death. He asked for volunteers. Young men, some barely 20, stepped forward, not hesitating, not looking back. Teams rotated every 10 minutes. The heat was unbearable. Metal looked as if it could melt. Men collapsed, vomiting, shaking from radiation poisoning. The first team cut open the valve. The second widened the hole. The third prepared the welding. Moisture made the metal impossible to work on. They tore their bed sheets, drying every surface by hand. Finally, the last team connected the waterline. And then, they waited. Minutes felt like hours. Everyone stared at the temperature gauge. Then, a voice shouted, "The temperature! It's dropping!" The entire submarine erupted in relief. Captain Zateyev sprinted back to the control room. One by one, the warning lights faded. They had stopped a nuclear meltdown. They had saved their ship, and possibly prevented a world war. But the cost was unimaginable. The engineers who entered the reactor chamber absorbed 13 times the lethal radiation dose. Their injuries were horrific. One by one, they died in the days that followed. 14 more men died over the next 2 years, and the Soviet government covered everything up. Sealed medical files, silenced witnesses, misled families. Only decades later did the world learn what really happened aboard K-19. In 2006, the crew was finally honored. Their sacrifice, once hidden, is now remembered. This was the story of the K-19 submarine crisis, a mission that pushed ordinary men into the heart of nuclear danger, all to prevent a disaster the world would never know had been coming.